Hey, and welcome to Map 3 of Lunar Apocalypse, the second episode of Duke Nukem 3D, Warp Factor. And I have to say, quite honestly, being upfront, this is probably one of my least favourite levels in the whole of Duke Nukem 3D. This opening is brutal from a pistol start, because as you may have already noticed, there are a bunch of sentries, and those sentries are going to be all over us. We have to defeat those without taking too much damage, because we need all that health going into the back half of this level. So yeah, the opening to this level is horrible on the harder difficulties. Sentries are just ugh. You know what, we're going to leave him in there. The other thing that annoys me as well is that this door is kind of set to open when you basically walk across a certain line on the floor, and what it means is all of these enemies just kind of come pouring out of that room, and they can completely obliterate you. When you come down that elevator there's an explosion. You've got to be really careful not to get caught in it. Obviously, if you only have a bit of health, that can be problematic. But you can see that this room is kind of messy. Things have gone very badly in this area. But when you pick up the shotgun, these guys spawn, so you've got to take care of them. Blue keycard is right there. You also get a bit of a tease here for what's coming later in the level. There's some atomic hells on the other side of that wall that we just can't get through right now. Right now it's just out of our reach. You also want to make sure you grab that armor down here. It's going to be very useful on this level. Wait. Sentries are so annoying, and trust me, this level indulges heavily in them. So we're going to take out the enemies there. So this is kind of the core here, and you can see there's some atomic hells in there. Unfortunately, because we don't have a jetpack, we're not going to be able to get those, I don't think. We do actually need to get a jetpack to grab those. But we can use this trap here. As you can see, we load the enemy into the laser trip mines, and it took itself out for us, which is really nice of it. So the blue key card goes in there, and this takes us on to the next part of the level. Now, the thing that really annoys me about this part is that, much like the opening bit, it really loves to make use of sentries, and not just sentries that you can see. Sometimes they warp in, and it's one of Duke Nukem 3D's more annoying attributes in the second and third episodes. Throwing sentries at you in place of actual difficulty. I'm not a fan of the sentry enemies. I think they're kind of cheap. We'll take out these enemies here. Again, I do love the backdrop in this episode. Being able to just see all of the level that you're exploring and kind of get to sort of see areas that you haven't gone to yet, it does kind of give you a sense of scale in these levels that isn't really possible in the street levels, because obviously, you know, with streets there's buildings in the way, but here in space you can kind of see the whole base, and it's nice that you kind of get to see a different kind of way of looking at levels. Speaking of different ways of looking at levels, we're trying to use this door to trigger these sentries here. As you can see, it didn't work. They weren't going for it. Well, as I mentioned at the start of this episode, one of the big differences between this and the first episode is that there's a lot more linearity in this one. As you can see, we're not really being given plenty of options on how to approach these levels. You're kind of given one route, and that's really it. Even if we had like the jetpack and such, it's not really as useful in this episode. At least not in this level, and in quite a few of the levels. So yeah, more sentries here for us to take care of. Tank sentry. I do love the lighting in this level as well. there's a lot of red lights and there's a lot of kind of putting you on alert because it feels like you're fighting in very claustrophobic areas, and I kind of dig that. It's a nice contrast to some of the bigger arenas that we saw in the first episode. Oh, that's already shutting. You can shoot that and shut it from outside, or you can lock yourself in if you really want to. We're going to take out you. Another sentry, thank you for that. But again, we get to see the base from the other side, and again, really big fan of this. It looks really nice. Even all these years later, it is still quite impressive to look out and see that big, massive Earth. Oh, will you stop? So when we go down this elevator here, you can see those atomic helves that we saw earlier on. Yeah, so that actually sort of loops around on itself, which is really cool, because it kind of lets you look further into the level and kind of whets your appetite for what's to come. And it is entirely possible to miss that. But I do like this kind of thing. It's kind of unique, being kind of transited through like this. Obviously in the LA levels they have the subways with the trams and the trains, but here we get these little shuttle pods and they're quite nice. But as mentioned, one of the tricks that this level and this episode in general kind of tries to employ is throwing these sentries in and kind of having them teleport in, which just makes them a real nuisance to deal with. So we'll come in here, gonna shoot over there just to get rid of those enemies. Very nice, but we can pick up some shotgun shells because of that screen. There's also a secret wall here. Now, we're actually going to need this very imminently, so it's a good idea to grab this if you haven't. So the good thing with the Battle Lords is that if you shoot them in their feet, normally it shrinks them down. There's a new enemy type who fires rockets at us. One of my favourite enemies from Duke Nukem 3D as well, because they've got a lot of personality and they can melee you if you get too close. So they do present a big challenge. Although the shrink ray does kind of make easy work of them. So there's nothing of value there. This is the way to the exit, but we can't actually go through there right now. We have to trigger the exit by finding the switch to bring down the force field.
Come get some.
Gonna grab the shotgun ammo there. So we're going to grab that first aid kit there. I'm going to use the night vision goggles here because it does actually highlight the enemies. This is quite a dark area until you find the light source, which we will do in a second. So I just want to get rid of all these enemies here. So we'll turn off the night vision goggles there. And when we hit this switch, oh, look at that. So cool. And it lights up the room as well, so it stops this room actually being difficult, but yeah, love that. And you can look back on the previous parts of the level as well, so it's nice. It's nice that it's all connected in a visually pleasing way, I find. What's interesting as well is if you look at these screens here, it kind of reveals that they targeted LA specifically in sort of the first episode, so it's kind of a nice bit of continuity that the whole invasion was kind of planned and you're seeing those plans. So let's grab the Devastator here. We don't really need to make use of it because we took down the Battle Lord earlier. Ow, thank you for that. Nothing else of note here. So now we can actually make a break for the exit here. So this is actually a pain floor. If you don't have protective boots, it will hurt in there. Gotta be careful here. I don't want to die. I'll use the shrink ray to bring them down to size. And that's pretty much the end of the level. But before we finish up on this level, I actually want to go and explore the skybox a bit. I just want to kind of poke my head outside and see what kind of things we can find outside that will be interesting to look at. You can see that that's actually the room we were looking down on those atomic hells earlier on. I'm not sure if there's a way to grab those without a jetpack, because I assume the game thinks that some people will bring the jetpack in from previous levels, so, you know, if you do, just grab those and give yourself some extra health. But what we're going to do here, we're actually going to step outside here. Oh, that actually hurts you as you cross over it. That's interesting. One hit, one bit of damage. So there's the shuttlecraft. This one's actually not that far sort of outside of the boundaries of the level, which is pretty fun. But again, like, it's really cool that, like, they get to represent these levels like this, and it's a nice, pleasing way to sort of visualize these levels. Obviously, you're not supposed to see all this here, but you can kind of see where the dead bodies are, because there's no floor underneath there, which is loaded in. But if we come to the other side here, yeah, you can kind of see, like, yeah, there's the pain wall. But I'm not a super big fan of this level, I have to be totally honest. The number of sentries on the higher difficulties just completely kills it for me. And it's no different in the N64 version, where, as you can see, the red light at the start there is kind of paler. And did you just come through the wall? Excuse me. Yeah, so unfortunately the N64 is a bit more buggier than its PC counterpart when it comes to Duke Nukem. And you just saw it there with that sentry sort of popping through the wall there. The way they all just came out there. I mean, I'll take it, because I'm not going to do any better than that, let me tell you. I just don't think there's a real need for there to be this many sentries. Sentries, in my eyes, they're just too cheap an enemy, because all the other enemies in the game, you can kind of use tactics to get around and such, but with the sentries, it just seems to be a case of put as many in a space as you can and kind of hope that they chip away at your health. But again, when you head down the lift here, it triggers this sequence, and again, there's not too much difference here. The lighting's a bit more blander in this version, but other than that, there's really not that much change. Excuse me. Again, you can see the atomic elves there. One thing I do like in this level is that if you use explosives at the wrong points against the walls, it can actually burst some of the pipes in the walls, and the steam will actually hurt you. So that's something interesting that Duke Nukem does. So again, we're going to trigger this trap the way we did last time. I'm going to see if I can get them both to come up here. You can even see there the blood kind of splattering up the lift, even though we were high above. So I'm actually going to come in here this time before we trigger the blue card door and all that. Ah, we've got dun-duns. That's fun. Let's take stock of the weapons that we have here. So I'm actually going to fight these guys properly here. Oh my god. So basically these enemies kind of have rockets and they shoot them right at you. But not just that, if you get too close, they will sort of use the blades and spin into you. So they can be pretty annoying to deal with. Again, can't really do much here right now. We have to go through the yellow door and hit the switch to open the force field. I think as well, one thing I don't like about this level is that even as linear as some of the levels have been thus far in the space, they haven't been this linear. I feel like this level is kind of like a big breaking point in terms of you're really kind of forced to go in like one specific route compared to the other levels thus far, and it's a bit like Launch Facility in the sense that you don't really get much choice in the kind of direction you want to go and explore. You're kind of forced onto one track. But if you look outside here, without any stars, without any earth, it kind of looks like you're just sort of floating in the void. I'm going to use the pipe bomb there to take down these enemies. You'll also notice, weirdly, that the door textures are very low quality in the N64 ports, which... it's not just these doors, it's every door. Every door kind of sticks out as very low res. Here comes our chariot. You can see the starting part of the level there. Free of all the sentries, thank you for that. Also, we picked up some missiles, so I'm assuming we're going to get a missile launcher at some point in this level. Use a pipe bomb there to get rid of all those. So again, this is not a very hard switch puzzle. Generally in the base game, they don't really make the... excuse me. They don't make the switch puzzles that difficult to solve. We get the grenade launcher here. Oh, we'll save you. Definitely. I think one of those babes is actually in one of the secret areas near the start of the level. I should have gone and saved it to be honest, but... I'll openly admit this is not the first time I'm trying to record this level. It's actually taken quite a few attempts because of the sentries, so yay for that. Luckily the atomic health is there for us to grab. Wait. Just a second. Oh, excuse me. Hold up. There's something I want to look at here. So look down there. There's like one white dot there in the far distance. Why is that there? Like, it just... if you look kind of above, around where I'm pointing here, you can just see like one white dot far off in the distance. Like, what on earth? Let's see if we can see it from here. I'm more fascinated by this white dot than I am with this level, to be honest. So we're going to take on this Battle Lord here. Now, hopefully with the grenade launcher, we should be able to just kind of knock its health down really quickly, because the grenade launcher is pretty relentless. Even still there. There you go. Sorted him out. I am playing this on the come get some difficulty. Also, bizarrely, the night vision seems to be more useful here. I'm not quite sure if this is how it works in the N64 version. Also, they've changed that from a full med pack to a just simple med pack, which a little less useful there, guys. Yeah, the night vision just is generally more useful because you can actually see in the dark. Whereas on the PC, it just kind of lights up the enemies, which can be useful, don't get me wrong, but it's not always what you want when you're using night vision. As you can see, like, there's just so many of these sentries, and they are pretty relentless. Like, once they start spawning in, it's pretty easy to kind of get overwhelmed by them. Ah, nice, we got the missile launcher here. Excellent. So again, what I like is if you look on all the screens around here, you can kind of see like that they were planning the invasion of LA, which happened in the first episode. This is pretty sad, I'm not gonna lie. Like, looking out onto what in the PC version is quite, you know, lovely to look at. Oh my god, hello. I mean, it's not much of a trade-off, is it? Let's be honest. So that opens up the exit there. And I guess we head to the exit now. As said, I have a few problems with this level. And I think chief among them is the fact that it over relies on Sentries for difficulty on the higher difficulty settings, and it's just not fun to grind through Sentries constantly. Don't spot me with the grenade launcher, that's not a good shout. Yeah, of all the Duke Nukem levels we've played so far, I think this is definitely bottom of the tier list for me, personally speaking. I know some people probably love Warp Factor, and if you do, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Disagree with me, I really don't mind hearing it, because, you know, I love hearing the conversations around these videos.